Another book from the Paperback Project. My quest to read all of the trade-sized paperbacks on the literary fiction bookcase. I read the Canterbury Tales, which I had never read before, and is a classic that I now totally think, oh, how would I not read that? You gots to read the classics, folks. You have to. And this one, like, it's incredible how chapter after chapter we're like, oh, this is connected to that. Oh, this is connected to that. This is connected to that. And for instance, there was a chapter that led to the book of the Dun Cow, which I was looking for, and I guess we don't have a copy of it anymore, but great children's book set in medieval times with a medieval worldview and medieval world. Back when the earth was the center of everything before it was knocked spinning loose. Wild. But for those of you that don't know, the Canterbury Tales is a book from 1300s. This is almost 700 years old, this book. That's so crazy. There's no design credit for the cover, but I wonder if it was Leo Leone. I have a Ulysses a study cover that he did that reminds me of this, and it had the vintage logo on it too. Leo Leone, who later had a pretty innovative kids book career, including a book called Little Blue and Little Green that's just about little scraps of colored paper. Still somehow got racists upset. But Chaucer, I mean, this guy literally influenced Shakespeare. That's crazy. If you influence Shakespeare, that's amazing. He was influenced in turn by Dante, Boccaccio, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, just everything that was around. It makes the 1300s and this time feel so fresh that it's like what feels recent to them feels recent to you as the reader, and what feels old to them feels old. And it feels like you exist with them with all these shared references, because many of them are ones you know. I think this makes a neat trilogy with this version in verse, which is also part of the Paperback Project, and this book of criticism, which is not currently in the Paperback Project, but has been at times. It keeps getting pushed out, but I'm still going to read it after, like maybe next. I also just read this while I was finishing up the Canterbury Tales. Neat little 22-page write-up from the Franklin Library. I guess they had really nice gilt editions of these books, and these came with them as little intros, or you could buy them separate as in a box like I have. What's so interesting is it says the version that this is commenting on and that they chose to include is David Wright's prose version. What are the odds? But this was interesting. I learned some things. Pretty sure I worked with Chaucer at a Domino's once. Kind of looks like that, huh? Oh, one of the interesting things I learned from this was that there used to be a few different dialects of English, and because Chaucer wrote this in this one and spoke that one, he also wrote Troilus and Cressida. He helped ensure that the version of English that's spoken today would be the one that it is. It could have been something pretty different if it had been any one of these other groups. Yeah, it's a group of pilgrims off on some condescending religious quest, but they represent people from all classes, and they tell stories, except like royalty, and they tell stories, and they poke fun at each other, and it's great. You get a sense of this bustling group moving along. It does feel like an unfinished work. There's a couple of chapters, and then this edition, the last chapter, the guy's like, you'd probably think it was boring, so I cut it out. I'm like, what? Look what he says here. The Parson's Tale. This is the longest of the tales, and it is not a tale at all, but a sermon. Like the tale of Melibœus, it is written in prose, and I have also omitted it as being unlikely to interest the general reader. Briefly, the Parson's Tale is a sermon on penitence, in which is embodied a long treatise on the 7 deadly sins. It is probable that the Parson's Tale was written in Chaucer's old age when he realized he would be unable to complete the Canterbury Tales as he had planned, and was a way of winding them up in conformity with the retraction which follows. Oh yeah, that's right, it ends with this crazy retraction. He basically, like, leaves this dying note about, like, which of his books he disowns and which he still likes. Oh, he's like, I want to be saved in the afterlife. I also have this beautiful edition. It's got some school markings on it. Oh, and another library free cart one there. And I'll probably at least read the introduction of that during all this Chaucer reading. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I think the next book I read, one of them will be this work of criticism. Criticism goes fast. If it's about something you're interested in, it's like pop culture fluff to read it, I think. Of course it can vary in its density. Look at that beautiful nonfiction paperback. Lovely. And I really enjoyed this. It wasn't a chore. It took me longer than I thought, but this is a very lively. I think it's good when you're getting into some of the ancient ones to find the most accessible texts you can. Why not? Let yourself in. Starts off with a general prologue where you're introduced to all the characters. I thought that should have been woven more throughout it, but I see what he was doing. It's cool. Or repeated at least. The Knight's Tale. That's what A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger is based on. Argument between the host and the miller. Yeah, sometimes the best parts are like the interstitial arguments and things. The miller, the reeve, cook, the cook. Yeah, you can tell it's was an unfinished work and that it wasn't all worked as a single document really smoothly. But, it's lively and it's awesome, and it is a portrait of a time and place. And it's packed. There's a lot in there. So many interesting things, like every time our narrator describes the stars or the sun going down or the directions they're heading, it's all like with such astronomical knowledge. An alchemist crashes the party like right at the very end, and you suddenly get this crazy chapter on alchemy. Like, what? It's a bit of a liberty though for a translator to just be like, I'm leaving a whole chapter out. I don't love that. Like, wouldn't an abridgment of that material even have been better? Preachy stuff and the rest of it. I mean, some of these characters are all on a religious pilgrimage. David Wright, the translator, born in South Africa. Distinguished poet. Atlantic Award. Books of poetry include poems, moral stories, monologue of a deaf man, Adam and Eve. He's also translated Beowulf. And edited anthologies. Favorite book of 20th century verse, The Forsaken Garden, 7 Victorian Poets, and the Mid-Century English Poetry, 1940 to 1960. Well, yeah, I'm going to read this next. I already read that, and then I'll read this. And make some other readings in there too, but like I started reading a Philip K. Dick book that was just calling to me from the shelf. Flow My Tears, the policeman said. Read like half of it in a sitting.